Hello there and welcome to joining us on the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on For You Television. Our big stories of tonight. A fresh attack in Mali has claimed the lives of over 100 civilians by suspected armed rebels in central Mali, according to government report. Plus, delegates at the Commonwealth Women's Forum underway in Kigali, Rwanda, are addressing pressing challenges affecting women and girls across member states. And of course, in culture, music at intersections was the chosen theme this year on World Music Day 2022. How has music been able to serve as a vector to unity in Africa? We shall provide the answer in this edition of the news. Once more, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us. I am Teke Wana at the anchor. We begin this day from Europe, where we are told that Ukrainian President Zelensky has been granted audience in front of the African Union Commission, during which he requested an audience with the African Union earlier on in April 2022. The request was granted, during which he addressed African leaders, as we in this report by Nota Bianche.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky had asked to speak to the African Union back in April 2022, a decision which was granted. The Ukrainian president was granted audition in front of the African Union Commission. In his address, the president reminded African leaders of the necessity of having a nuanced, meticulous, and careful strategy on the Russian-Ukraine war. He continued in his address, saying that what Russia did was evil by attacking Ukraine, asking African leaders not to bring harm to their citizens through needless actions, noting that German companies are still running on Russian gas. That is to explain that leaders do not want to throw their people under the bus. Remember, so far, most African countries have been neutral or muted in the criticism of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Earlier last month, when the United Nations General Assembly suspended Russia from the UN Human Rights Commission, 23 African countries abstained and 9 countries voted against the suspension.
Now, let's continue talking about the ongoing crisis in Ukraine and Russia. But this time around, something different, but still under an attack, where the head of Moscow-controlled group says that 3 people were injured and 7 others are missing after Ukraine fired on Black Sea oil drilling platforms. On the other hand, we are told that Ukrainian military officials say a food warehouse in the Black Sea port of Odessa was destroyed in a Russian missile attack. Ekome Abane completes that story for us.
Russian authorities, who now control Crimea, said 3 people were injured and 7 are missing after Ukraine fired on 3 oil drilling platforms in the Black Sea of the Russian-annexed peninsula. The governor of the region, Sergei Aksyonov, also confirmed in a telegram on Monday, stating that the Chernomorneftegas oil and gas company was attacked. This is the first reported strike against the offshore energy infrastructure in Crimea since Russia invaded Ukraine on February 24th, and Aksyonov, who was installed by Russia as the peninsula's governor after the 2014 annexation by Moscow, had previously said 5 people were injured in the attack before revising the casualty figures. Furthermore, he said 3 platforms were targeted, triggering the evacuation of 94 people on the sites, while 15 soldiers remained to guard them, and he also said a search and rescue operation was continuing by air and sea. It should also be noted that Chernomorneftegas has been sanctioned by the United States since 2014, but the company still operates several gas and oil fields in the Black Sea and in the Sea of Azov. In a similar case scenario, the Ukrainian military said a food warehouse in the Black Sea port of Odessa was destroyed in a Russian missile attack, but no civilians were killed. The city has come under sporadic bombardment since the start of the war and is blockaded by the Russian Navy, while each side accuses the other of laying mines in the sea. At the time of this report, Russia's military hadn't commented immediately on the accusations made by Ukrainian officials, but the war in Ukraine and Russia already clocks 117 days of looting, carnages, destruction, and above all weakening of the world economy, which is gradually leading to a possible stagflation worldwide, as disclosed by the World Bank.
Now, let's come down to the African continent, where we are told that the 2-day Commonwealth Women's Forum is ongoing in Kigali, Rwanda. And of course, during these 2 days, the member states have been able to redress the issue on domestic violence and climate change. As you tell us more, Leyuga for Nyonga.
The First Lady of Rwanda, Jeannette Kagame, spoke of the new challenges facing women across the world at the Commonwealth Women's Forum taking place in the capital, Kigali. The forum runs alongside the Commonwealth Heads of Governments meeting that opened on Monday and culminates with high-level meetings from the disproportionate impact of climate change on women and men in Global South to the predominantly female online buying, sexual exploitation, and violence across the world. It seems that obstacles to equality have multiplied, mutated, and evolved. From the climate change to domestic violence, and Commonwealth Secretary General Patricia Scotland promised to unleash the potential of women and girls across all member countries. The Secretary General urged the women to strive towards an end domestic, workplace, societal, and political violence, also urging them to work together to place each other at the heart of the fight against the existential threat of climate change, as well as striving towards unleashing the potentials of all women and girls in the Commonwealth. Rwanda's President Paul Kagame is expected to take over from the UK's Prime Minister Boris Johnson as the chair of the Commonwealth for the next 2 years.
Now, a note of information that the Commonwealth Women's Forum is expected to end this Wednesday, June 22, in Kigali, Rwanda. Now, let's go back to Zimbabwe, where we are told that Zimbabwe health workers have gone on strike following the spiral inflation in the East African nation. The healthcare workers demand to be paid in the US dollar like before in 2018 after the local currency collapsed. As you tell us more, Ekume Ebane.
Healthcare workers in Zimbabwe have gone on strike to compel the government to pay salaries in US dollars as spiraling inflation has eroded the purchasing power of their take-home pay. The country's nurses, doctors, pharmacists, radiologists, and other medical professionals did not turn up for work on Monday in an action that strike organizers described as a huge success. The striking workers held placards and danced outside Zimbabwe's main hospitals such as Parianyatwa and the Salim Mugabe Central Hospital, which are the two largest referral hospitals, both situated in the capital Harare, demanding better salaries. Dr. Tapiwanashe Kutsutera, the leader of Health Apex, a body representing all unions in the healthcare sector, described the strike as a good first day, which was marked by strong support for the strike across the country, and believes the first goal has been achieved already because the association has been invited for a meeting by the Health Services Board and the ministry, and this had not happened in the last 14 months. Zimbabwe is in the grips of an economic crisis characterized by hyperinflation, a rapidly devaluing local currency, 90% of unemployment, and declining manufacturing output. With the purchasing power of their salaries decimated by an inflation rate upwards of 132%, the striking public health workers and other civil servants are demanding that their salaries be paid in US dollars, which they see as more stable currency. The expected talks between the government and Health Apex Union officials comes just days after a union representing civil servants turned down a government offer of 100% salary increases, as Zimbabwe's leader Emmerson Mnangagwa, who took over from Robert Mugabe in a November 2017 military coup, has struggled to end the economic crisis that started under his predecessor. Meantime, according to reports, health professionals have decided to strike until they are paid $540 a month, earnings they used to receive in 2018 before the local currency collapsed. It should be recalled that Zimbabwe adopted the use of the US dollars in 2009 after its local currency was decimated by hyperinflation. It reintroduced its own currency again in 2019, which is also now failing to hold its value against the US dollar. Moreover, before introducing the Zimbabwe dollar, the central bank first launched a bond note, a surrogate currency it claimed had the same value to the US dollar. Introduced in December 2016, the bond note failed to hold its value and traded at a discount to the dollar. As the bond note's value fell further from 2016 onwards, workers who had been earning salaries in US dollars saw their salaries losing value and purchasing power dwindle. Salaries since then have become a fraction of what they used to be when the country was dollarized, triggering consternation among workers.
Now, in one of our late story, we told you that there was a recent attack in Mali. And of course, where we are told that more than 100 civilians have been killed in an attack by suspected armed rebels in central Mali. The killings took place in Diala Sogon and two nearby villages called Dewali and Desangon. At the moment, security officials in Mali are still struggling to elucidate this mystery. As you tell us, Ekume Ebane.
More than 100 civilians have been killed in attacks by suspected armed rebels in central Mali. The government says members of the Katiba Machina armed group assaulted at least 3 villages in the rural commune of Bankas in Mali's central Mopti region on the night between Saturday and Sunday, with a death toll amounting to over 132. The government also says some of the perpetrators have been identified and reiterates that the civilians were coldly killed by fighters of the Machina Katiba of Amadou Kufa, an organization affiliated to Al-Qaeda. The killings took place in Jalasagu and 2 nearby villages known as Jaweli and Desagu in central Mali, which has long been mired in insecurity. Meantime, investigators are on the spot to find out exactly what happened. But it's worth noting that Mali and the Central Sahel region have for months faced a string of civilian massacres blamed on armed groups, as the country has since been rocked by insecurity since 2012 due to raids and attacks linked to terrorist organizations such as Al-Qaeda and ISIS. A deplorable situation which has plunged the country into a deepening crisis, and now the violence that began in the north has since spread to the center and to neighboring Burkina Faso and Niger. The United Nations peacekeeping mission in Mali has also issued a statement about the attacks on Twitter, saying it is concerned by attacks against civilians in the Bandiagara region, the area of central Mali, perpetrated by extremist groups. For these attacks have reportedly caused casualties and displacements of populations. In a separate incident, a UN peacekeeper also died on Sunday from injuries sustained from an improvised explosive device. The head of the UN mission to Mali, El Gassim Wane, said that since the beginning of 2022, several attacks have killed UN uniformed peacekeepers. He said that attacks on peacekeepers can constitute war crimes under international law, and reaffirmed the mission's commitment to supporting peace and security in Mali. Since the beginning of the year, several hundred civilians have died in attacks in central and northern Mali, but the attacks are not only blamed on armed rebels, but according to a report by the Human Rights Division of the United Nations mission in Mali known as MINUSMA, the attacks are not only blamed on armed rebels, but also on the Malian army.
Quite pathetic there. Now, let's talk about something different now, whereby it had to take the Cameroon Bar Council 3 days to discover a new president. Barrister Mba Eric Mba secured his win against his main contestant, Barrister Memong Philippe, in hotly contested elections in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé. The details with you, Nota Bianke.
More than 2,000 members of the Cameroon Bar Association converged on the Yaoundé Sports Complex in the country's capital to elect a new team to pilot the affairs of the bar. The election marked the end of an extended elective General Assembly that was initially programmed for 2 days but proceeded to a 3rd day. His election marked the end of a process that saw the election of 15 members into the Bar Council, amongst which 4 are women. The President of the General Assembly of the Cameroon Bar Association, Barrister Claes-Yves Patrick Wanu, and the Vice President, Barrister Baka Enes Acho. The new executive has a mandate of 2 years. The 52-year-old advocate at law from Momo Division of the Northwest region of Cameroon got 1,285 of the about 3,000 votes cast, while his main challenger, Barrister Memong Philippe, was at 969. Barrister Mba Eric Mba takes over from Barrister Claire Atangana Bikuna, who was the interim bar president for about 2 years following the passing away of former President Charles Chakunte Pati. Mr. Mba promised to fight against corruption within the bar and to improve the development of lawyers. The time has come to judge the bricklayer by the wall.
And congratulations to the new bureau members of the Cameroon Bar Council. Now, today, June 21, is always been celebrated as the World Music Day. It is very true. It is at a point in time where piracy and copyright has become a bone of contention to most artists. As we celebrate this day, we reflect on how music has been able to reunite Africans in the following report.
Music has over the decades remained a true vector of peace and unity in the African continent and beyond. Be it in the French, English, Lingala or the Pidgin English languages, Africans all find a common sense of belonging in the promotion of each other's cultural identity. A fact which has for over the years been glaring as cultural promoters never fail to invite their brothers and sisters in the business, be it from Ivory Coast to Gambia, Cameroon to Malawi, Congo to South Africa, Nigeria to Zimbabwe, and the list continues. The fraternity amongst them remains too strong, in which not even in death have they been able to be separated. A clear example is when the famous Ivorian-born DJ Arafat died, and talk less of Congolese-born Papa Wemba, popular and upcoming artist, joined the condolence train to pay tribute to their fallen heroes. However, political views may differ from country to country, but music knows no race, culture, skin color, or religion in the African continent.
Because the musician has one of the biggest voices that I think in our context it is still minimized, and I know that if we are given that due audience, if our musicians are given the power, we can do better. Some people have the inspirations to, like the late Lapirone Mangado, so people who had power over the public more than even certain head of state or ministers or so. But I think that we are not given that power, and we don't use it. We as artists, we don't use it appropriately. But I think that musicians like us with the visions of us carries, we know that Africa will have peace, Cameroon will have peace, because we are ready to stand up with our voices to put the people together and make them believe that nobody can help us except ourselves.
Music like football serves as a unifying factor in the African continent and beyond. Thus, the International Day of Music provides an opportunity for those in the business to reflect on their contribution to the well-being of their consumers.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, that report there puts it up to today's English Primetime Newscast on For You Television. We thank you all immensely for your kind attention. God willing, we shall be back here same time tomorrow for what must have made news in Cameroon, Africa, and the world. Until then, goodbye from Anzio, Paraguay, and goodbye from Bamako, Mali. God bless Motherland Africa. Bye-bye.
Bienvenue à cet entretien exclusif sur For You Télévision. Et pour l'occasion, nous recevons